Hello, here is the Pride program. I'm Alevtina Madyarova, and today we are in Moscow to continue learning more about Kazakh people who are living abroad, but remained in the heart of Kazakhstan. The hero of today's episode is a legend. His teammates call him Wise Snake Zhar, Turkestan Snake, or just Zhar. We know him as the Olympic champion Alzhan Zharmukhamedov. Alzhan Zharmukhamedov was born on October 2nd, 1944, in the village of Tavaksai of the Bostandik district, then the Kazakh SSR. Soviet Kazakh basketball player, the 1972 Olympic champion, the first ever Olympic champion of Kazakh origin, participant of the Munich legendary basketball match USSR versus USA at the Olympic Games in 1972, bronze medalist of the 1976 Olympiad, height 207 centimeters, position center, honored master of sports of the USSR. He lives and works in Moscow. Do you live here? Yes, on the 7th floor. I lived at the CSKA boarding house when I came to Moscow in 1969. 4 months later, I got an apartment in this house on the 7th floor. Well, since then, I've been living here. We met in the courtyard of the house on Mira Avenue, where Alzhan Zharmukhamedov has been living more than half a century. Of course, most part of his life is connected with Moscow. However, his childhood was spent in the village of Tavaksai near the Uzbek-Kazakh border. There was a kind of a detective story with how I was repeatedly called up for the military service. Police officers came even to the trainings to take me. And I had to escape through the window in the dressing room. I usually took a ticket, money and a passport to fly away to Almaty. I lived there until the leadership of Uzbekistan instructed to get off my back. But in the end, the time came and I had to leave. In the Soviet era, two republics struggled for a talented player, because Zharmukhamedov graduated the Institute of Physical Culture in Tashkent. However, the Moscow leadership decided to bring Alzhan to the CSKA team in 1969. Why did you start playing basketball? After graduating the school, I worked as a polisher at the factory for 2 years. Then the physical education instructor gave me an idea to play basketball, and I entered the Institute of Physical Culture in 1969. Thus I started playing basketball. I was 19 years old. Recalling his youth, Alzhan Musurbekovich admits that he was very lucky. Many things happened not according to the plans, but by the fortune. I was born in a village. There, after graduating the school, you have only two ways. Either you enter the institute or work at the factories in the city of Chirchik. I had to work given my difficult situation. Then working conditions were rather challenging at the factory. The work of the polisher was associated with a cooling system, where chemicals are used. The air we had to breathe was filled with smog, and we did not use a protective mask then. I think I wouldn't survive until now if I continued working there. That's why you think you were lucky to leave the factory, right? Yes, I was lucky. I believe I was very lucky in life. Undoubtedly, our conversation should have focused on the 1972 Olympics. That legendary match entered the history of world sport once and forever, and it's nice to know that our natives are an integral part of this story. The national team of the Soviet Union was composed of the best players from the whole country. Then we had 15 republics, and the strongest players gathered in the national team of the Soviet Union. Of course, the coaches brought us both psychologically and physically to such competition, which I consider was the most important event in my life. The 1972 Olympic Games, we beat the Americans. In Munich. Yes, in Munich. It was 1972. We won in such a dramatic game and became Olympic champions.
3 секунды до конца встречи. Финальная сирена. Сборная Соединенных Штатов выиграла встречу. Но судьи останавливают. Судьи... Нет, матч еще не закончен. Как будто матч еще не закончен. 3 секунды. Передача на Александра Белова. И сборная Советского Союза забивает мяч. Победа!
Besides the fact that it was the first such a big victory for the Soviet Union, you became the first Olympic champion of Kazakh origin. Yes, of course. In general, I was the first representative from the Central Asian republics who were delegated to the national team of the Soviet Union. Moreover, at that time I played in teams of not the highest league of the Soviet Union. There was no such thing before me in the first league. The sons of Zharmukhamedov also chose big sport, and the sport veteran did not leave his beloved work. He trains children at school and still plays. It seems natural. From an early age, children were engaged in basketball. They attended games with my participation, which is why everything seems to be inherited. While you keep working with the younger generation, you train children. How much has the approach to the sport changed over the years? How much has the character of training and the nature of competition changed? In general, of course, there are a lot of changes. Firstly, children have become different. They are surrounded by too many things, such as the internet, computer games, and many children often sit playing them for a long time. It turns out that children don't move enough. There is a little space for games. I have to explain that it is necessary for a man to be strong, and thereby I try to attract them to sports. With the release of the movie Move Up, which showed our victory to many people, the interest in basketball has increased. The popularization is very important, right? Yes, very much in this regard. How do you assess your image in the movie? Well, in general, the actor described my character well. I do not like to attract attention, but during the match, I fulfilled my work. It is necessary to be reliable, so in this final match, I spent most of the time on court. I played 36 minutes out of 40. I rested only 2 minutes, in the first half and in the second half. In general, the film turned out to be quite interesting, and most importantly, the movie conveyed the drama of that last match. This is the most important thing. Of course, this is a work of fiction. Any author, any director has a right. While the film turned out to be good, which is why it beat sales record among Russian movies. Young actor Alexander Ryapolov played the role of Turkestan's snake Zhor in the movie by Anton Megerdichev. Coincidentally, the height of a young actor is exactly like our heroes, 2 meters 7 centimeters. Among other things, they are almost countrymen. Ryapolov is from Tashkent. When Sasha scored in the end of match, there was a burst of emotions, of course. But when the Americans filed a protest, we were sitting in the dressing room already and were waiting for the result. Of course, there was nothing joyful. We didn't know what the outcome would be. We sat there until 6 a.m. and then we were taken to the Olympic Village, and only at 1 p.m. we were told that the result was announced and that we became Olympic champions. Well, of course, everyone gathered. The Olympic team was as one family. Everyone worried for each other, wished a victory. Naturally, all the athletes, Olympic champions, immediately gathered. It was already the last day. All the Olympic champions were left until the last day. All Olympic champions of various sports brought some vodka, caviar, something else, and we started celebrating the victory. Such a victory should have been celebrated, undoubtedly. Yes, of course. It happened for the first time, after all.
Zharmukhamedov сразу же выбрасывает мяч Сергею и запускает этот мяч в кольцо американцев.
People recognize Zhar in the streets. Moreover, it is simply impossible not to notice him in the crowd. Once I met a man in the subway. He was probably 50 years old. He looked up at me and asked if I was Alzhan Zharmukhamedov. I said yes. He began to express his emotions, thanking for the victory. The whole car turned and looked at me. I felt uncomfortable. I drove only 2 stops and got off at the second stop, but such moments do happen sometimes. Now, after this film, a lot of people recognize me and start thanking. However, the symptoms of stardom disease are not familiar to you. Well, I try to stay calm. The fate brought me to the basketball. Parents taught me to do everything reliably as it should be, at the highest level, and I tried so hard to do my job just like that. Therefore, I do not see anything special about this. Alzhan Zharmukhamedov has been living in Moscow for a long time. However, the warmest moments are associated with his homeland. Native places bring pleasant emotions and memories. Yes, I'm still probably not very accustomed to Moscow. All the time I return to the homeland, I go there every year. Really? Yes, since 2004, when the financial situation has become more or less stable, I go there every year. I spend a month there. My father's house is there. There's silence, calmness. People do not rush. No one bothers you. I go into the garden, lay down on the bed, admire the sky and the stars. Probably they're not seen from here. No, not at all. The impression is that there are no stars. Back at home, the nights are dark, the sky is dark, the stars are bright, the constellations are all visible. Alexei, yes. Well, there's a good climate. In Tashkent it is 45, 44 degrees. In the shade it is impossible to live and it is impossible to sleep there. And in the village it is too hot too, but as soon as the sun sets behind the mountains, you feel coolness from the mountains and you even need a blanket to cover yourself up. Amazing place. Of course, people are used to go on vacation to Europe, Greece, Italy or Turkey. How do you relax? I come to the village and walk. There we have the Cherchik River and the channel on the other side.
Там живут до сих пор племянники мои.
My sister's grandson lives there. My nephews are there. I sit on the bike with them and ride around the village. No one bothers you.
Когда никто не мешает отдыхать.
You don't like the crowd, the city rush, right? Of course, there are too many people in the street. Everyone is running. Everyone is in a hurry. I do not like this.
Куда торопятся, толкаются. Нет, не нравится.
On October the 2nd, our champion turned 74 years old. Age is solid, and it is worth noting that he has retained the habit of active life. He trains himself, trains others, and does not miss interesting matches. I go to the games and look how the teams are playing. What are your impressions about their game? Well, of course, now we have a completely different basketball. Recently, I watched the final match of the European Champions Cup in 1971, where CSKA won, and I played quite good. I was considered to be a very fast player among tall players. I ran fast, jumped quickly, and then I looked at today's players. I thought, oh Lord, what a slug I was, because now physics has grown so much, speed has increased. So now it is much faster, much more alive, athletic basketball. So theoretically, if your team of 1972 had to stand against the current players, would you have any chance? No. Really? Absolutely. I thought you would say the opposite. Firstly, my physique is not as powerful as it is now. Current basketball players have such muscles as Apollo or Hercules had. I recall Shaquille O'Neal. Yes, when I was a coach, the second coach of Sergei Belov, who led the Russian team, we went to the World Championships in Toronto in 1994. I was talking with Sergei when suddenly I felt there was someone in front of me. I lifted my head and saw the back of a man higher than me. I was amazed by his physique. And such a person plays basketball. Try to play against him. Alzhan Zharmukhamedov agrees rarely for interviews and meetings. In our case, the key word was, of course, Kazakhstan. It seems that the alertness of the mind and absence of the will to get stuck in the memories in the nature of Zharmukhamedov are in the foreground. Maybe that is why the children he trains speak about him with delight. Well, basically, children come here after school. The parents come and ask if it is possible to leave children here after school. I say that I work here for them, actually, and they start coming. At first they train a large group, but gradually some boys realize it is difficult, that they need to run, jump, do some tasks. There are also lazy boys. Children are all different, and they leave the trainings. In the end, out of a whole class, some 4 or 5 children remain. Thus, we form a team. Over time, they get used to it and stay in the team until graduation. Yesterday, I had the training with small guys. They were 12-year-olds, and the guy came who's already a student. I asked him why he came. He wanted to play with us, to run. Thus, the love for basketball is instilled. The school number 2107, where Alzhan Zharmukhamedov works, hosts the city competition. We paid a visit to school to have a look. How long have you been training? 7 years. Do you like it? Of course. So, are you going to continue your career in basketball, or is it just for fun? I'm considering options for how to continue my career in basketball. Do you like the coach? Very much. His technique is beautiful. When I joined the team in the 3rd grade, I immediately understood that this coach is very good, although at that time I didn't know that it was Alzhan Zharmukhamedov. I learned about it only a month later, and I was very pleased that I was coached by such a person. But it is very clear that a person understands the game. He knows what techniques to use. We practiced a lot last year and the year before. He was very pleased when we won, and it was sad when we lost.
Ему очень было приятно, когда мы выигрывали. Было печально, когда мы не выигрывали. Человек этим живет, и это видно.
Alzhan Zharmukhamedov made several attempts to leave the coaching, but every time he was persuaded to stay, and he agreed. Who knows, maybe there are future champions among these guys. After the premiere of the movie, guys aged 15-16 years started coming to me and asked to train them. I said that a little time was left to study. But guys wanted to learn techniques to play basketball at least. Well, of course, I cannot refuse if a person wants. I just warned that in such a short time, say for a year, he will not be able to master such a complex technique of playing basketball. But still, the desire is very important. I have a trainee with a good body and height of 195 centimeters, but he doesn't know how to play. He studies nearby, and I'm even interested in the process of training him. I wonder what I can teach him in such a short time.
Пришел мальчик хороший довольно, внешне данные хорошие, идет 1,95 ростом, мощный, сложенный, но совершенно не умеющий. Ну, учится с нашей школы рядом. Мне с ним даже интересно, смогу я там чего-то научить за это короткое время.
Almost no one left from the team that gained victory in 1972. The team of veterans that trains at CSKA includes mostly younger players than are today's hero. But being one of the most senior, Alzhan Zharmukhamedov does not skip training and is not going to slow down.
Ну, из той олимпийской команды у нас уже осталось 4 человека всего.
Only 4 people left from that Olympic team. The rest have already gone. And in Moscow, only Ivan Ledishkin lives. Modestas Paulauskas is in Lithuania, and Anatoly Polivoda is in Ukraine. I also played as a member of other teams. We participated in championships of the Soviet Union and the European championships, so we keep playing. Here we have created the CSKA Veterans Club, and we meet once a week to play basketball at a level that we are capable now. It's difficult to say that this game of basketball, but still we get to run and throw balls. I think you're still a little shy, but it's already hard. I'm already 74 years old. I'm not 24. Not everyone at 74 can easily get out of the house and go out to the basketball court. Well, this suggests that you need to keep fit all your life, to love sports from the childhood. That is, you need to do sports from the very early age, not when your body already starts creaking. Therefore, I'm always explaining to my children that people, especially men, have to be the head of the family. They will be fathers. They will support the family. They have to be ready for this. If you're sick 100 days a year, then no one will recruit you to do a good job. Family well-being depends on good work, I say. Therefore, children should always do sport, not necessarily basketball, any kind of sports. And if you're sitting at the computer playing these shooters, which don't actually bring any benefit to anyone, then health will not improve, but only worsen. So here's advice from a person who knows what he's talking about. Consider whether you want to be like Alzhan Zharmukhamedov at 74 years old. I think anyone will envy your form. And when the champion goes to the gym, it's not so easy to keep up with him. Night. Are they shooting me? You too? Really? Yes. We came especially from Almaty to make a program about our champion. We want to see how you're training. How are you? Nice. Can you imagine he's walking on foot, but he could take the elevator, right? There is an elevator. Yes, I barely keep up with him. Just 50 years have passed. Zhar jokes and running has become harder. I believe, of course, but I really envy the physical form of these gray-haired athletes and the youth of their spirit. Obviously, quenching obtained in his youth remains for life. We talked about the way the life has changed over the past decades, what the face of modern Moscow has become, how the children of Zhar grew up, and with what emotions he watches modern basketball games. But one way or another, we again return to those legendary 3 seconds. This unique situation when the final was twice replayed in the time period, which in other circumstances flashed unnoticed, seemed like an eternity, entered the history of world sports as basketball 3 seconds. In general, it was very difficult psychologically because the final match at the Olympics always requires a special attitude, a special approach. In this regard, it was certainly hard. Therefore, the score in the match was tough, 51-50. When the norm was 75-80 points per game, this suggests that that was exactly psychological pressure. Victory of the Soviet team at the Olympics was so unexpected for all. Defeated American team did not even come out to be awarded. They did not come out for the award. The next day we were taken to the athletic stadium to be awarded there. Cubans came, who took the bronze, the 3rd place. But they did not come. The award was cancelled, and we were taken to the Sports Palace where the final handball match was held. They did not appear there. But we were there and got our medals. Yes, they still have not taken their Olympic silver medals, and they told their children that no one would take these medals. That is crazy. They still believe that they have not lost. That is, they consider your victory was unfairly protected. They don't say that we won the wrong way, and they say they did not lose. By the way, Zhar then spent more time on the court than any other player on the team, 36 minutes. Well, the legendary ball, as sports fans remember, Belov scored from the pass of Ideshko. 3 seconds were enough to win. But to consider yourself a slug in comparison with today's champions, it does not even fit into my head. Well, the flight of the ball has not changed much, so to speak. It flies all the same with the force with which you throw it. Therefore, of course, if I had to run from here to there, I would not have had time. I would not be the fastest player. But apparently, it was the fate. Yes, apparently. As Kondrashin said in this movie, where the surname is not Kondrashin but Garanzhin, which, in general, annoys me. He said that Americans would lose sometime, why not to us? Well, it turned out to be true. Now, when I'm too lazy to go to the gym, I still remember the wonderful dream team and the veteran who, at 74, does not miss training and infects the youth with love for sports. Thank you, Alzhan Zharmukhamedov, for the meeting, acquaintance, and inspiration. And our private program continues. See you soon.